trying to look for a better way to start this. Because before every assessment, we come before students and we say the same thing. The same thing. And students will still go back and make the same mistake. When we're marking the first one, I was really disappointed because third year students would write without references. That's disappointing. If it was your first year, I would understand. Second year, not so much. But your third year, okay? And guess what? A lot of students actually got away with it because we were considering saying, you know what, third year, let them go. But this time around, guys, I'm going to take it seriously. If you have a friend that is not in this class and expecting that the markers might be lenient, no. I'm saying no because at the end of the day, a lot of you will be proceeding to do of masters, and then you put it down that we're from GMU. Now, that will not tell well of GMU. Really, it will not tell well of GMU. We marked, a lot of scripts I marked, no references, nothing. And yet, you still give these students, you know what, let my people go. And some of them will say, I think I deserve better. For no. So this time around, it's going to be different. If I'm going to be marking your scripts, and you don't have references to support the claims, the arguments, seriously, you're not going to pass. And it's 60. A lot of people are going to be coming back for a receipt. While you guys will be celebrating your freedom from studying, they are still going to be reading. Please, please, try not to be one of those that will be receiving for your own error. Okay? You can actually avoid this. We say these things over and over and over again, and students still will make the same mistake. 238 students. How many students do we have in class? Some of them are in China. Yes, I can understand. 70 students in China. But what about the rest? 60%, not 40. 60. Take it seriously, guys. This is not like the first one. The first one was easy. Okay? That was, you guys are basically saying the first one. But this is the real deal. So you've got to take this seriously. Bearing in mind, you have less than a month. Less than a month. It's easy, it's interesting. You have everything already. Okay? Just like I would normally say, have fun with it. Now, what do we expect? You have a case. Okay? If you're doing number one, if you're doing number two, it's up to you. And I'll tell students, do the one you feel comfortable with. Okay? Do not do what your friend is doing. Read very carefully. Understand, if you feel happy with number one, then go for it. If it's number two, yes, then go for it. But you need to have an understanding of what you're going to be doing. Okay? This is a case. There's a student that's not in this class and sending me email about the first assessments. Imagine. Anyways, now, culture clash. What is the expectation? How do you go about this? I said to my seminar students, amazing students by the way, when you start in this, try to understand Hofstede, okay? The first one, a lot of you still described. We talked about the application. the application of it. Don't go telling us about Halstead. Yes, we know. We know what Halstead talked about. How do you apply it to the case is what matters. The application. If you say power distance, yeah, there's inequality, yes, that is it. But how does it apply to the context is what we're looking for. So in this case, you have culture. I said to my students, have Halstead, have trumpeters. Understand them. When you read it, try to identify the cultural differences. How do you explain this using Halstead or trumpeters? Don't worry, you don't have to go reading or applying all the 6 dimensions of Halstead and the 9 or 10 or 13, I don't know, of trumpeters. Pick the ones that best applies to your work. If it's 3, fine. If it's 4, okay. If it's 5, better. Okay? I would say less is more sometimes. If it's 3 of the dimension, apply them effectively. Yes, the German behave this way. American behave this way. Where is the justification? Can you find that on Halstead? Yes. Use Halstead to back up that. Again, don't rely solely on this case. There are loads of them online you can actually make reference to. Okay? For instance, I have this is one of them. The Daimler-Chrysler merger, a cultural mismatch. You have a lot of them like that. This is very good. Okay? With this, look, you have the clash of culture. Okay? You have, this is really detailed. And not only that, you have the organizational models. As we can see, we have the American model, we have the German model. Trying to explain. All right? You have this. And not only this. Where did I search this from? Look. As we can see, all the measures and everything, cross-cultural challenges at the day, you have all this. Okay? We want to see wider reading. When you read most of this, you have enough information, okay, to produce a very, very rich work. So just go. A lot of them. Use them. Okay? Use them. I wouldn't want to now write and say, you know what, there is no evidence of a wider reading. Take advantage of this. Let me come back to where's the assessment. This, the marking criteria, references, okay, presentation and referencing, that's 10%. Look, I can understand we are all different, okay, we understand differently. There are some people, they are just amazing. When they read, it's easy for them to understand. That might not be your case. Then how do you, okay, try to manage, why is the word shortcoming? Take advantage of this. The analysis, we're going to come to the analysis later. Understanding and reading, that's 15%. Why not just read? Read enough. Prove to the marker that you actually understand what you've read. When the marker has actually seen your work, this is how we mark. We look at the work. If there is understanding, there is reading. You know the next thing we do? Straight. I go to your reference list. Everything you've done, I want to see how many you've read. And some students might think, you know what, I'm smart. Just put everything there. You know what? We read. If we have any doubts, we read. I have a colleague that used 3 hours in marking one script because he was reading everything. Okay, so my advice is why not take advantage? Understanding and reading. Try to read wide. not 4. A lot of you had 2 the last time, 3. It's disappointing. Okay? We want to see 15. Minimum. 15. Okay? Read. And let us see that you understand the topic. At least that's worst case scenario, you'll get in, let's say, 12. Maybe 10. Depending on how much you've read. Okay? Structure is critical as well. That's 15. Try. 12. That's 24, right? And now, presentation and referencing. Why not aim for 10? Even if you get maybe an 8, that's a 32. You're almost there. Then critical analysis, that is where you work on. And then getting 40 there, that's 72. Easy. It's really, really easy to pass. I'll tell you guys the truth. It's very easy to pass. As long as you do what is expected. Alright? Read the instruction. And now let's come back to this. Support every references. Don't go making reference to slides on Blackboard. I've seen students do that according to the slides or actually referencing Amarachi. No. No. Look for this case. Make reference to the actual source. Okay? Make reference to the actual source, not this. So that is it. Just try to identify the mismatch. Okay? What led to the issue they had in the organization and try to justify using Hofstede or Trumpeners. Okay? It's very, very easy. That's the first one. Again, wider reading. For the second one, it depends on you. Okay, this is equally very, very interesting. When you're approaching this, we've talked about pay and reward. Okay, look for models because the first one, you don't really need models because you have hosted already, you have Trumpeners. They're there already. But in this case, you're going to be using a different model to justify if it is better to global integrate or adapt locally. That's the argument. Now, for you to be able to argue this, the last class, we talked about factors that could lead to standardization, factors that lead to globalization. Argue some of these factors. For instance, standardization. We introduced Bartlett and Goshaw. We talked about the transnational strategy. Okay, that is when multinationals, their strategy is high on global integration and it's low on local adaptation. You might want to use that. You need Bartlett and Goshaw. Okay, and remember when we talked about pay, we talked about the going rates, we talked about the balance sheet rates. What are the advantages of going rates? What are the disadvantages? You need to critique. Don't just go singing its praises. Oh, you know what? No, we want to critique. Okay? When I'm writing, this is how I write. I'm looking for all the advantages. I'm looking for different sources to critique. It might take me days, but I'll find something at least I would use to critique. That is why I love that word, however, when I'm writing. You will always find it in my work. It does this, however, this person said this. Not only that, someone else had a different opinion and the person said this. Then I conclude using what I understand because we want to see your own words as well based on the overall analysis. So For pay and reward, bad debt and go show. Again, that's a model you can actually use. And look at the balance sheet rates, look at the going rates. And if you look at bad debt and go show, transnational, why would multinational standardize? Why? Last week we talked about maturity. Okay, we talked about corporate culture. What else did we talk about? In terms of standardization, the multinational strategy. Okay? Then, as much as multinationals would want to standardize, what are the factors that could impede or make that not successful? Culture is critical. Institution or the institutional environment of the host country is critical. Then organizational politics make us understand that you have an idea of what you're talking about. Be passionate about it. That is what we like that. And when you're writing, this is the secret. Let your introduction be strong. Because you've already captured the interest of the marker. A very strong introduction. Because when it is weak, the person will just, okay, but let's still read. But when it is strong, you've won the person's heart. Even when you've made some mistake, the person is still, no, this student is good. Yeah, this might be maybe a minor detail, but I know the student is good. So always start strongly. That's the key to writing. Start strongly. If you're looking at recruitments, again, bad debt and brochure can still be used as a model. In addition to bad debt and brochure, you might want to use the HRMG model by permuter, okay, to justify. Is it ethnocentric? Why would multinational adopt that? Is it polycentric? Why? Talk a bit about, just a bit about, the HRMG model, and then justify why, okay, multinational would prefer to adopt. Some of this, okay, going back to bad debt and brochure, transnational strategy, okay, this is what the multinationals do. Again, back to standardization. Why would businesses choose to standardize? American multinationals, they standardize. It is part of their practice. American multinationals everywhere would tend to standardize. And not only that, they formalize processes. So if you find an American multinational in India, it's going to be the same practice in China, the same in Korea, in Africa, wherever they go. That's standardization. Yes, as much as that is their practice, does it really work like that everywhere they go? Institutional distance. Now they come to some country. Last week I used the case of the white robe, taking off your shoes. Now you come into another country and the institutional environment is really, really difficult to penetrate. What do? You will have no choice but to adapt to the local context for legislation. So when you approach this way, use case study examples. That will actually give your work that depth, okay, that strength. Case study examples, look for them. For pay and reward, we have a lot of them. Fenner and Almond and Fenner actually wrote a lot, especially focusing on American multinationals for pay and reward. Okay, and when you're writing this, you need to be very critical. You need to be very critical. Make sure every argument is supported with evidence. I was marking this master's student once, and he was talking about a university in which I'm familiar with, back in Nigeria. He was writing interesting write-up. I found everything interesting. But you know what? I gave him a 53. I was nothing. I was enjoying his work. But I gave him a 53. Why? Because he did not reference this work. And I was putting there, where's the evidence for this? Where's the evidence for this? yes, you're right, but I want to see evidence. I don't want to rely on what you think. That is why all these materials they've been peer-reviewed. Okay? We want to see evidence. And when you have case study, that's even better. But make sure that your case study actually applies to the context. I've seen students, they just write, they introduce case study to tell us we use case study. Yes, you did. But how does it apply to the context? That's why when I write, sometimes it will take me a day, 2 days. I'm still researching to get just one case study. That's how serious it is. Okay? And one thing that is important, another thing that is very important is your grammar, your spelling. Like this last one, I saw a lot of students making this grammatical syntax errors and everything. I overlooked because I could not correct your slides. But in this case, I'm going to be highlighting everything. Punctuations, your grammars, everything is important. You know what? When we say all this, they cost you marks. Be very mindful. I'll tell people, if you can pay for Grammarly for just a week and then cancel the subscription, yeah, it's good. But use it. Because sometimes you might have the idea, you're writing, but when we're reading, because of the grammar, we just put lacks clarity, and that's costing you marks. Yes, you know it, you're good, but the simple things that would cost you is 70, the simple things. Okay, so be mindful of your grammar, okay, your tenses, your punctuations, the way you write, they are critical. Okay, your structure, how you approach your work. I normally tell students, just imagine you're writing, you write scripts for movies. Avatar 4, Avatar 5. If someone is reading it, would the person find it to flow? Would there be that flow, logical flow? Don't go from A, then to J, then to Z, and you're back to B. No. Let there be that flow. So when the reader is reading it, even if you lose it at some point, the reader will understand because it's flowing nicely. But if there is no flow, we struggle to understand what you've written. And guess what, guys? Sometimes when you've written, because you've written it, it's like, I nailed it. But give it to someone else to read. Will the person understand what you've written? That's the question. Okay, and don't go using all the grammars to impress us. No. I thought use the simple English that the next person can read and understand. I've had a student using this whole grammar, and I was like, what is this? It gave me a massive headache because I was trying to understand what the student was writing. And guess what, guys? Look, I had to open my dictionary to understand some of the words he was using. And then it did not even fit into the context. You would think, look, if I use all these grammars, I'm going to impress, I'm going to pass. It doesn't work that way. Simple and correct English. That's it. That's it. So many things might actually cost you that mark. So be very, very mindful of them. Be mindful. We talked about why they are reading. Please. You have less than a month, but you need to read wide, regardless. Do not rely on just this. I know a lot of students are not in class, and at the end of the day, they will only be referencing only one, because they feel, well, that's the one we were given. It's actually a case study. No. Go read others. Read others. Okay? Just relax while writing this. Okay? Run your work by your tutors. I tell you, that's why they are there. That's why they are paid. And don't leave them for, I say, too late. We have so many students as well. This is sending, that is sending. Sometimes you find your inbox is just so full of people wanting feedbacks. If you actually send your work early, then the person will have the time to look at it for you. Bear in mind, let this be the final one you're going to be writing. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a receipt. And with the receipt, you're going to be under pressure. And some students might think, you know what, not a problem, I'll contract this. We know. I keep saying this. We know. I know a contracted work. If I referred you to APO, I would not feel guilty. I referred a student once, and during the hearing, I was there, she was crying. I felt sorry for her. But then again, whose fault was it? A second year, so she had an opportunity to make up for that. But this is your third year. If you refer to APO, it's not funny. If you've not been there, try not to be there. Because the pressure, and then it's going to mess up your record. So desist from any form of malpractice. And sometimes ignorance could actually get you there. Like the students I referred, she referenced them, but did not paraphrase. And it was 74%. I had to do my job. Okay, and that was the reason why we just had to leave her, because ignorance. Yes, she had a 0, and she had to retake it. So please, guys, I'm begging you guys, take this seriously. Not just this, every other assessment. All right, read the instructions carefully. Every instruction, read them. All the submission guidelines and everything, you know this. You see this, all this. For me, I might not take this seriously. I might just look at the first and just move on to the next one. But other tutors, they are very critical. They are very critical, yeah. If you're supposed to use Arial, 12 fonts, double line spacing, and all, which has been specified. Doing something contrary, some of them might pick up on this. To me, might not be a problem for me, but some people might pick up on it. So these are the little things that will cost you the points. 1,500 words. 1,500 words. Plus or minus 10%. Stay within. Okay? Read the instruction carefully. If you've not started, it's not too late. Read, understand the expectation. Your drafts, take it to your tutor. They'll provide you feedback on your outline. They're not going to tell you if this is a 70, if this is an 80. It's just your outline. Yeah, this is okay. Or no, you need to add this, you need to do this. That is why sometimes the likes of me, I go the extra mile for students. They're stressful. I get stressed. So, send them early to your tutors and they will provide feedback. Okay? Read the instructions. If you do not understand what you need to do, go to your tutor, ask them. Okay? The last one, the students focused, everything was on Hofstede. Described Hofstede, now went one slide globalization and came back to Hofstede. That was an easy mark for me. It was just easy for me to mark. Okay? Try to understand. Okay? Understand. That is why we're doing this. Understand what you are expected to do. I hope my voice will remind you when you're writing the things that you're expected to do and the things that you're not expected to do. So when you're writing this, I said to my students the last time, focus more on this clash of cultures. This aspect is what you really need. Other aspects will provide you with better information, but this aspect, the clash of culture, is what you really need. So when you're reading these aspects, understand Hofstede first. So you know, is this masculinity and femininity? Is this uncertainty avoidance? Is it power distance? Is it long and short? Identify them like that. So when you start writing, try to quote. You're free to quote. Take an excerpt from, the case. And then use your model to justify why. Okay? Justify why. That is what we want to see. Why? There are some contradictions. I'm not going to tell us. Okay? But there are some contradictions there. That is when you have to strengthen your work. Identifying what contradicts the model and how it will be approached differently. When you're reading, you might see something, yes, an American feature, but it's different from what you have on the dimension. What is the justification? Okay, let your work be really, really critical. When the marker is marking, the marker knows you have an idea. And even when you go about making mistakes, you see the marker trying to be like lenient, sort of. Be lenient. So, let's take this seriously. Read the instruction, the clash of cultures. After now, before you start, try to read these aspects very well. Get others. You don't have an excuse to say, oh, I do not have enough information. Look, this. And you have up to page, 10. You have a lot written on the measure because this actually shook the business world. Okay, you have a lot. Read them. Okay, make references to them. And there is one particularly. Where is it? This. You go look for it. Do wider reading. I'm not going to show you the topic or the title. As you can see here, we have the US model. That is the US model. And coming down, you have the German model. Contrasting the US. Now, this person has actually, that's a good piece of work. The decision-making process according to the German model is also fundamentally different. Okay? You see all this. They develop very detailed plans. Everything. You have these models there. Okay? I'm not going to tell you which. Go and do your reading. Okay? Do your reading. Find that. Use it. Okay? Use it. So that when we're marking, you're going to be getting grades. Really, we are not out there to make students fail. That is the truth. We derive nothing in making or failing students. No. Okay? A lot of you, my initials, you will see, yeah, I gave good grades. As much as I failed some people, yeah, but I did give good grades as well. And we're happy when we see students write very, very well. When I'm reading your work and it's amazing, trust me, it's easy to mark because we don't go highlighting and doing all these writings and all. Okay? Next week, we will run through this one last time as a reminder. I think we've covered everything basically. Okay, but my last advice for us before I entertain questions is read the instructions carefully. Okay? Read the instructions carefully. Be mindful of the submission dates. If you're a fast writer, good for you. If you are a reflector like myself that takes the time to analyze every stage, then start early. When I'm writing, I start early because I know I might write 200 words in a day and I'm happy because it's of great quality. Alright? Some people might just write this in a day and they still score up to 70. If you have friends like that, stay away from them. Yeah. Because they are playing with you and all. They get a 70 and you're feeling it. Because that's their strength. Okay? That's their strength. So know your strength and then build on it. Questions, please. Ask your questions. Ask your questions. I'm more than happy to take questions. And please, your seminar, you don't have to be shy. Take your work to your tutor. Show your tutor your work. I know some students, they tend to be shy. And you ask, are you okay? Yes. And then they go and they do something contrary. Run your work by your tutor, okay? And your tutor will provide you with feedbacks. I don't want to see your faces next year. I keep saying it. Some of you I might not even recognize. So if you want to come back, feel free. But please, get this done properly. Alright? Ask your questions, and we're more than happy to take questions. Again, any question? Alright, I'll leave you guys. When you leave here, we still have 20 minutes. Just read this section. The clash of cultures. Just read it. Read this section and try to see if you would understand, okay, which of the aspects you'll be using. Highlight them. Just underline if you're creating. If you want to highlight the aspects you're going to be using. The Germans will do this, the US will do this. Put them in yellow, green, blue, whichever way you learn. Okay, so that when you start writing, you just make reference to them using other literature to support. Remember, wider review. Okay? Grammarly, less errors. Let your work be understandable. Simple and correct English. Above all, read instructions. Any question? So I'll be seeing you guys next week and enjoy the rest of the day.